and welcome to the Whensday Warm-Up. I'm your host, Lee. The Whensday Warm-Up is powered by The Inside Show. Sorry about that, but we just had a little moment. I had a slip of the tongue this morning and I forgot that this is a family channel. I get amper on live television. It's very incriminating gesê. But anyway, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. If you haven't done so already, please may I ask that you like, subscribe, and that you hit that notification bell, man. Guys, please do so. I just also want to get into, I'm someone going to introduce my guests here. I feel like we should someone start it out. I already heard your laughter in the beginning, so they know that I'm joined by guests this morning. We'll start off with, on my right-hand side, on my far right over there, the one and only Mr. Funny Guy. I worked with this guy in drama. He wrote such a brilliant production. For me, it was one of my favorite productions that I did. Factory days. None other than Ozzy Goliath. Oh, I see you now go by Dr. Oz.
Come on.
Good morning, Dr. Oz.
Come on with it. Good
How
morning.
are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? What do you like? What do you dislike?
Ek doen baie. In fact, can I speak Afrikaans?
Yes, you can switch in between.
Bilingual.
Bilingual.
Gotta make sure. Okay, for you guys that don't know, my name is Ozzy. My stage name is Dr. Oz. I do quite a bit. I do stand-up gigs. I do any and everything. But no, anyway, I'm a biker. I'm a father. I'm a loving husband. I'm a friend. I'm a comedian. So I go by a lot of trades, eh?
Hey, man. Yeah. You know the saying, what is it? Jack of all trades, master of none. No, but it says that thing goes on. So people are like master of none, but still better than a master of one.
Nice.
So for those peeps out there that just want to master one thing, learn from this man over here, Dr. Oz.
Come on with it.
But it's nice to have you in studio finally, Oz. I think we should do more of these.
Oh, yes.
We're doing a marriage segment, but I like listening to Ozzy. There's so much pearls of wisdom that he gives, but in a funny way. It makes it relatable. So we need to get you for more conversations.
Oh, yes, and comedy more. Much
yeah.
More. Yes.
And then we've got your beautiful wife over here, Nicky Goliath. Good morning, Nicky.
Good morning, everyone.
So tell us about yourself. Who are you?
Okay, I am Nicky. I work at Crystal Church. I'm a loving wife, an amazing mother.
Okay, yes, girl.
Yes, I'm Nicky.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. A loving wife, right, Ozzy?
Beautiful.
Great, beautiful.
Yay.
Fantastic.
Yay.
Extraordinary.
Come on with it.
And then I'm so glad that I finally have the one, the only Dr. Neil. Prof.
Come on with it.
We will call him Prof for today's show, right? We've got Pastor Neil in studio this morning as well. Pastor Neil, let us know, who are you? The man, the face to the name. Many people hear about Pastor Neil because we throw your name around a lot here on the show. Yeah, Pastor Neil said. Yeah. So here you are, but let us know, who is Pastor Neil?
Hey, my name is Neil Hartzenberg. I'm married to a beautiful lady with the name of Cheryl Hartzenberg, the love of my life. And we are on a marriage show.
Beautiful.
So yes, thank you so much, man. Beautiful lady. I have one daughter, Chanel, and I'm the family counselor at Crystal Church. I also go by the name of Nila. Everybody knows me, Nila, or Nilo. And so we're just here to make sure that, the lasting thing that we leave is our marriages for our families and our children, so that they have a benchmark to work by. And so, I do marriage counseling, premarital counseling, just about any counseling. And we're so excited this morning. And I also, just before we get started, I had the privilege of walking this beautiful couple. I allowed them to walk down the aisle. I also walked 7 months with them in counseling, and what a beautiful couple they are.
Yes, indeed.
And that's who I am, Neil Hartzenberg. Yeah.
And on that note, Pastor Neil, you had the privilege of walking them down the aisle. Yes. But can you believe that it's such a long time coming now?
Yeah.
Like if you look back,
10
it
years.
seems like yesterday, because I remember that wedding.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, was it so long ago already? Wow. We're
9
getting
years.
old.
9 years. 9 years.
9 years going and strong. But before we continue, I just want to give a shout out to everybody in the comments section. We've got some people that's joining us, and I know for a fact that these are Goliath fans, right? That have come through. Yeah, many of them are Goliath fans. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. We've got Lucille Smith saying, good morning, family. Good morning, Lucille. Kimon Naidu, good morning. And then we've got Tiffany Goliath. Is that
man.
somebody you know?
Yes.
Somebody you know.
Yes.
We've got Tiffany Goliath. Good morning, good people. Oh, yeah, I know Tiffany Goliath.
Yeah.
I know her as well.
Hi,
Hello, Tiffany. And then Sheldon Banks says, Dr. Oz.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, no. Tiffany Goliath again. Hey, Nikki and Ozzy. Annalise Jacobs
Hey,
is saying, morning, my people. Oh,
Morning, our person.
okay, we see you. And then we've got Tiffany also saying, hi, Pastor Neil.
Hey,
and
Tavs.
hi, Lee. She's greeted every single individual. Thank you so much,
Tavs.
Tiffany.
Well done,
Good
Tavs.
morning
Thank
to
you. Good
you.
morning to you.
And Clayton Gumede is saying, awe, yala.
Hey,
Awe.
Clayton.
You know, must.
So I want to jump straight into the conversation because Nikki actually informed me that we might get load shedding at 10, so we have to end the show early.
Machtig.
Machtig. Wow, we've got somebody here, Pastor Neil, that you would be very, very happy to see. Cheryl Hartzenberg
Yeah,
in the comment section. That's
Welcome.
Pastor Neil's beautiful wife.
Hey, my
Good
love.
morning, Auntie Cheryl. Good to see you there. She says, hey, I'm here too. Hi, everyone. It's so good to see you. Then we've got Neil Christian. Good morning, team. Good morning, Neil. And then we've got your bestie, Cleo Risha Francis. Whoop, whoop. She says,
Bubbles.
good morning, family. Jesse Hendricks is asking, am I on the show? I don't know. Do I see him
Not
here?
even
What
close.
time is it? 8 minutes past 9. We say no thanks. Joy Paris is laughing. But anyway, let's get straight into it, right? I'm going to start off with, I'm going to ask the question to the two of you, to Pastor Neil, which I did a couple of weeks ago, and then to you guys as well. I'm going to first ask you, first and foremost, what is marriage to you? How do you see marriage, and what is it supposed to be? I'll start off with Pastor Neil, who has years of experience in this field. So, Pastor Neil, what is marriage in your eyes? How do you see
So,
it?
to me, marriage is the coming together of two lives who are truly in love with each other. And when I say truly in love with each other, not infatuation, but truly and deeply in love with each other, who's prepared to spend the rest of their lives together. You see, marriage, if you base marriage or the reason for getting married on companionship, then it's not the right reason.
Yes.
If you want to get married because you want to get out of your mom's house because she's giving you grief, it's not the right reason. But I believe that marriage is the most beautiful thing that God could put upon the face of the earth for two people who are truly in love with each other.
Yes.
And who are prepared to sacrifice and give for one another in order to fulfill their lives.
Yes.
And I think in essence, I think that that's what marriage means to me. Two lives coming together because they are truly in love with each other and are prepared to spend the rest of their lives together.
Okay, cool. So in summary, two lives coming together who are truly in love with each other.
Yes.
And it's also how you define that in love. It's
Yes.
not infatuation. It's not
love.
convenience.
No.
It's the essence of love.
Love, yeah.
Okay. And to you guys, we'll start any one of you.
Okay.
Ladies first.
So to me, like I always say, it's love. It's pure love. My dad always had a saying, it's not about you not being able to live without the person. So I'm not with Ozzy because I can't live without him. I'm with him because I can live with him.
Okay.
Because
That's
together
nice.
we can have a good marriage.
Yes.
And it's doing things together. It's not just about what he can do for me or what I can do for him. It's about what we can do together for our children as well.
Wow.
And it just so happens that I'm married to my best friend. Like, I can speak to him about literally everything. I can show him things and he's like, Eesh. So even with my female close friend, I'm like, maybe not.
Yeah.
But with him, I can literally show him and tell him everything. And it's been like that. Well, not before we got married, but after we got married, I could show him everything. But like
Please,
before,
Nikki.
even before, like
Yes.
when we visit, I didn't want to let him go home.
Yeah.
I just wanted him to be, and not because of anything funny, just because of the conversations we had and the future that we spoke about and the plans we set out together. Again, we're doing it together. He's an individual on his own, and so am I. But when we're together, we make it work.
Yes. Okay. Wow. We can end the show right there. Thank you, everybody.
Goodbye.
But Oz, what is marriage to you?
Look, I'm gonna speak from a color dome, no?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm gonna bring it.
We don't expect anything
bring
less from
bring
you.
it down so much so that you guys gonna understand. Hulle sê elke pot nodig om deksel.
Yes.
Right? Jy kan nie 'n biryani pot vat met 'n hardse deksel nie of 'n hard pot vat met 'n biryani deksel. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna gel. So the day that I found Nikki, she found me. We found each other.
Yes.
Right? That was the day that I knew I'm gonna spend the rest of my life with this individual. Right? At the time. So fast forward a few years, if people know me, they know I love food. I love it.
Yeah, I know that.
I love it, right? And let me just say, I make the best food.
Okay.
We can debate about it, but I make the best food. Moral of the story is, ek het my pot gekry, sy het haar deksel gekry. And everything that goes in that pot is all love. Everyone that comes to our house does not want to leave.
Yeah.
Everyone that sits in our presence does not want to leave. And that's the impact. It's kind of like a ripple effect that we should have as a married couple. So if you had to ask me what love is beautiful. Love is tasty.
Yo,
and
okay.
love maak vet.
I love that. I love that you put it that way. And what I want to, you raised something very important, something that I heard, and I want to find out by Pastor Neil from an expert perspective. Is it true? There's a study that says that when a man sees a woman, he can immediately tell that this will be his wife. But for a woman, it takes a little bit long. Obviously, it's not a matter of like she's like, oh no, I don't know if I want to. But when a man sees a woman, he can immediately make that decision in his mind. Like Ozzy said, when he saw Nikki, he knew that I'm going to wife her. Right? And for a woman, it takes a little longer. I'm not too sure does the more complex emotional makeup of a woman come into play there, but is that true, or do you think that it depends on the person?
I've heard a lot of stories. I've witnessed and I've seen a lot of people who knew from day one that this is going to be my wife. They walk into a room and they see the person. I know so many people, which to me, if I had to go and do a research, I would base it on the people that I know.
Okay.
And every single one that I know who said that, I'm one of them. When I saw Cheryl for the first time, I think we were 13. I'm just joking.
You're stout.
No. But somewhere along the line, I knew that when we became friends, I knew that this is going to be my wife. So I've heard many people say that. And if I had to draw or rather do a research on it, on the people that I personally know, all of them who told me that are still with their wives. So I think there's something that happens inside of a man. There's a conviction so deep inside of him that when he sees the person, he knows that this is going to be my wife. As far as the woman is concerned, I really don't know why it's very seldom that you hear the process needs to go on.
I agree with you, Pastor.
Process.
Yeah.
But I think for a lady, it's more, there's a lot of intricacies when they make a decision, you know.
Okay.
There's a lot of questioning, there's a lot of making sure, because I believe that when she also makes that commitment, that commitment is for keeps. And I think that based on the two, I think the one will be a well thought out process. The other one is a deep conviction that this is going to be my wife. And when the lady makes up her mind, this is going to be my husband, then that's it. And nothing. And everybody, including the two of them that I know, who are still in love with each other. And you said something just now. You see, to be in love with each other is really to be in love with each other, where no matter what comes, no matter what the enemy and the devil and everybody throws at you, that you still know that I made a commitment to that person and to follow through on my decision that I made. And that is what it's in love. Somebody once said, I love everybody, but I'm in love with my wife.
Wow.
And that's important because we can love everything and everyone, but to be in love, I think, is a defining factor.
Yeah, you guys say that you obviously, and I know I can attest to that you are very, you guys are like a magnet, and people are attracted to you. And I see that even like watching you guys, that you attract a lot of couples as well. And I know that you guys have like a couples clique almost. But also one thing, like I said earlier, is that you appeal to younger people, right? But what I wanted to ask on that note is that Pastor Neil mentioned that when you are in love, and we use this word a lot, in love. But modern society teaches us that you can fall out of love, right? And that's the reason why the divorce rates, I believe, are so high. Because of that ideology that people believe that as I fall in love, I can also fall out of love. Do you agree with that saying that you can fall out of love with your partner? Look, for some people, I guess it's well, if you look at the divorce rates, I guess that it's true. But what do you think they mean when they say I fell out of love with my partner? And then I'm going to go into the covenant part, Pastor Neil, with you. But for you guys, in your experience, and what you see in the things that you interact with yourselves. And then I'm going to move over. Because, look, we can't deny the fact we know a lot of people our age that are divorced now. They were married for a while, they're divorced now. Even older people that could be together for 30, 40 years. At their 40th year anniversary, like they're super old, they decide that, no, we don't need each other anymore. Yeah. But what do you think that means? What do you think people mean when they say, I fell out of love with my spouse?
I don't really think that you can fall out of love with someone. In all honesty, that's my personal opinion. And why I say so is because even after almost 15 years of us being together, I'm still madly in love with him. I mean, he can pull up in front and the smile on my face, I will run down the stairs.
We know. We already, when Nikki is smiling a certain way, you're like, okay, Ozzy's in the parking lot.
So it's for me personally, I feel like you said, you are in love with a specific person, but you love everyone. So I don't think it's an in love thing. Okay. I think they just love the person for convenience, for that time, for that period. And also, personally, I feel like I'm speaking because I know of people who have done this. It's what I can get out of it at that moment. Because everyone's getting married, I want to get married as well. Everyone is making commitments, I want to do that as well. I don't want to be left behind. Yeah. It's FOMO. You just want to do. And I feel like it's so unnecessary because if you look at the expenses of weddings these days, I mean, when we got married, we spent 30,000 on our entire wedding.
Wow.
And today people are spending over
30,000 on a dress.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I feel like it's the infatuation. It's not, I'm in love with this person. It's, okay, I love you. And I can say, I'm in love with Ozzy because of who he is. Not because of what he does for me, but because of who he is and the role that he plays in my life. He is my go-to person. And you can't fall out of love with someone, then you were never in love with them in the first place. That's just how it is.
And for you, Oz?
For me, I'm going to say it like this. First of all, don't get confused with seasonal and lifetime expectations, right? I'm sure we've all heard the saying, you've got to go through all the wrongs to get the right.
Okay.
Right? And why I say this, there's a thing that, especially in the colored communities, they call jawling. Ons jawl mekaar. I have to see what type of person you are. I have to see, are you full of nonsense? I have to see, are we compatible? I have to see, do you fill certain aspects in my life? Let me dot all the I's, cross the T's, stuff like that. So if you ask me, it's not so much so falling out of love. It's just that at that point in time, you made a decision based on your emotion, right? And that is why you got confused between seasonal and lifetime expectations, right? Some people is there to literally for season, right? You are there to learn. You are there to get something. You are there to pull something out of that person, something that you did not know. Then there's others that is going to show you something that you have never seen before, whether it be good, whether it be bad, right? But that is plain down for me. Soos die ou mense altyd gesê het, ou liefde roes nooit. En as dit roes, Ag, come on man.
Dit rus net 'n bietjie.
Dit roes net 'n bietjie. Dit sal terugkom. Some way,
Okay.
somehow, you are bound to meet up with this person again. So if you were to ask me, do you believe in this thing of falling out of love? No,
Okay.
I do not believe.
Okay.
I think that maybe a different take on it is that I think that people can stop loving one another.
Okay.
And that is the thing. And people have used falling out of love for convenient reasons to get out of a marriage. Because there's agendas, there's ulterior motives. And so they use the thing, I've fallen out of love with the person. I think you can stop. And I think Nicky said it correctly and Ozzy said it as well. O liefde roes nooit nie. And if you fall out of love with somebody, or if you say that, then you were never in love. Because love covers a multitude of any wrongdoing. And that is truly in-depth love.
Yes.
You see, and I think from that, I think people can stop loving one another. Because at times in marriage, and you hear people speak, and you can find, you say, this person drives the daylights out of me, and you can stop loving. But I believe that if you are truly in love with each other, it will go through every season that comes. Marriage will endure every season because you are truly in love with that person. You see, when you're in love, you make a commitment, and there's a sacrifice to that commitment. Any form of being in love or needs a sacrifice that needs to be made.
Yeah.
And so nobody puts a gun to your head. Nobody says that you have to marry Ozzy. Nobody says you have to. It's a decision that you make. And so I believe that to be in love is a choice. You choose it every day to be in love with that person. And that's what keeps it alive. Just in closing, I read an article in the Tonight some years back. It was an old couple in Britain, and there was a conference of journalists, and they were sitting at the Big Ben, near the Big Ben on the River Thames.
Yes.
And this journalist was sitting there. They got an assignment and they sat, and every day for the week that he was there was a couple that used to come to the bridge, and they would stand at that specific place. Old couple, every day. And on the last day, he couldn't resist. And he went up to them and said, sorry, man, I see every day you come at a certain time. I think it was 4:15. Come. And he asked the people, so can I just interview? I'm here on a expo with the journalist. Why is it every day that you come here? You wait for him. Sometimes if he's late, you wait. He said to the lady, this is where I met my wife more than 50 years ago. And this is what we've done for 50 years every single day. He said we don't go to bed in anger with each other. We choose to be in love with each other. And I think that is the benchmark or the accolades and the things that comes with that. There has to be a sacrifice, and you need to keep it alive. And to be in love will cause those things to do. It will cause those things to happen in your life.
Yes.
So as I said, that people can stop loving one another, but if you're truly in love with each other, it's difficult to fall out of love.
So before we continue, thank you so much for those of you who are still watching and for those of you who joined us. We've also got, I think it's Robin Alexander. That's also your guys'. I told you the
whole fan base is here.
Goliath is the fan base is here. And he says, Dafate. Okay. And then we've got the average gamer saying, morning, Nila and Shay. Whoop whoop. Thank you, most fam. But before we continue, I found something on Stats SA, right? And that's Statistics South Africa about marriage. And that was the inspiration for today's title. And the question is marriage an old-fashioned institution? And these are the stats, right? So it says that marriages are becoming less common in South Africa. Could this mean that marriage is becoming a fading tradition? According to the Marriage and Divorce 2020 report released by Statistics South Africa, the total number of people getting married has fallen steadily from 2011 to 2020. Besides the high decline in 2020 that may have resulted, they say, from the restrictions on gatherings in that year, the number of civil marriages have been consistently declining. Civil marriages fell by 22.5% between 2011 and 2019 and declined by a further 31.1% in 2020. So that's a steep decline if we compare. Then it speaks about customary marriage, and it says is one that is negotiated, celebrated, or concluded according to any of the systems of indigenous African customary law which exists in South Africa, and excludes marriages concluded in accordance with Hindu, Muslim, or other religious rites. In 2020, 1,585 customary marriages were registered at the Department of Home Affairs, indicating a decrease of 43.2% from the 2,780 29 customary marriages registered in 2019, just the year before. From 2011 to 2019, these marriages have declined by 45.1%. But it also shows, what was interesting here is that it shows that the number of divorces are greater than the number of marriages.
Okay.
People are not getting married, but the divorce rate is higher.
Okay.
So let's go into this thing, Pastor Neil, and you speak about it obviously from a Judeo-Christian worldview, but also from a legal perspective, how you understand marriage and what you have been as a marriage officer. Last week when we spoke, you spoke about this thing of covenant. But before we get into covenant, why do you think that this is the very, very dark reality that we are facing in South Africa?
Yeah, I think that, and one cannot help but blame maybe COVID during that time. And you know that it says 2020.
Yes.
When the lockdown came, there was a lot of things that came out of there where we sit down in council and we hear people's responses to this. It was the first time that people were locked down together for weeks and months on end. You just had each other. And one of the things that happened, and this had to be the institution in the beginning, that where people had to be together. For example, I ask couples, for the first 3 months of your marriage, don't go anywhere, don't invite people to your house, because you need to get used to each other first. Get on that basis, get to know each other, because there's things that's changed. You weren't married before, now you have to, Ozzy has to cook for Nicky, things like that. Ozzy has to check the house, and so forth. So it's a new thing, and I think that in its initial sense, remember now, I think, and from where I sit, is that so you get married, and you go on honeymoon, the next week you come back, you work, there's people coming. So there's really that, you're not together as such, as a married couple. And so I think that the stats are very scary in terms of what people have made for marriage. I believe that there's no longer a reverence for marriage amongst our people. Marriage used to have this, as it's called, holy matrimony. And I think that marriage, and to people, the holiness of marriage has been moved, or the goalpost of marriage, the holiness has been moved. And I think that is the scary part for me, is that people are getting married for convenience, for all the wrong reasons. And so I believe there's nothing under the sun that a good talk cannot sort out. And I don't think that God instituted marriage for us to be miserable. Then it would have failed. Then God's plan fails for marriage. So I think that people they don't know how to live with each other. And I think that this is what causes those high stats. And as I say, that people just want out. For example, I always make the example that, if you married 15 years, the first 15 years of your marriage, you're building your house. You're building your home rather, not your house. You're building your home. There's children that needs to go to school. You're struggling with transport, another car. So you're continually busy, So the children go to high school, out of high school, and you say later in years, people really find that now they want out because they were so busy. They're busy in their marriage. Don't take date nights, don't do whatever. And so when the children are out of the house and they're in university, now it's just the two of us now. Emptiness syndrome. Now we're not used to doing things together because we're busy. And I found that people said, you know what, I've given 40 years of my life to this marriage. You did, and we respect that. But consider what you had done. You worked hard, your career was booming, you had to do things. And so now people don't know how to get to that place in their marriage. And this is where they find, you know what, maybe I must do something for myself. Buy a motorbike, put on skinny jeans, go to the gym. And so other things attracts your attention. Yet you've been working together all these years. And I think that is where those stats come in, that later years, I think in the 40s, people don't know how to deal with that. When the children are out and they're out of high school, now it's like, we worked so hard. I've given my life to this marriage. You both gave your life to the marriage because you were busy in building your future, building the children. And so here the reality stays. We don't know what to do with one another.
Sure.
And I think that is the stats. There's a whole range of reasons why people get divorced at that range. And until you sit down and speak to them, you will find out the answers.
Yes.
And as far as I can say, and as far as I can tell, is that people don't know how to manage when they are alone. They don't know what to do as a married couple anymore.
Sure. So, in your personal story, right? You knew each other, you said 15 years now already. So it's 6 years prior to marriage, of the 9 years, obviously. But I know that I said that I'm going to ask you guys these questions because I want to get to something here which Neil Christians actually asks. Neil Christian asks, team, how important is pre-marriage counseling and what should it cover? So before we get into that, I want to speak to you guys. So you guys knew each other for 15 years. You are married for 9+ years, right? Because last week I asked the question about should you be married to live together, and I was quite shocked to see how many people believe that you don't have to be married anymore to live together. So a lot of people, like Xavier said last week, is fat and sit, right? And it's scary to think that that is where people, that convenience factor. But what stopped you guys? Because you could have just decided to move in. There's no law in our country to say, like I said, in some really strict Arab countries where you cannot live together if you aren't married. There's nothing stopping us here in South Africa, in our context, from moving in together, living together. Because, I mean, the things that you do for marriage, you can do outside of marriage. You don't need the married institute to get married. You guys were both working, so you were financially able to move in together. You were financially able to do all those things. What was the deciding factor for the two of you? Because I feel like that's extremely important. You are in love, like you said. You know that this is my person. But what was the deciding factor for marriage, per se, for the two of you? Can you remember it? Do you know what it was? Did you have a discussion about it?
So for me personally, because I have family members who also fat and sit, look, my parents did not have a good marriage.
Okay.
You know, a lot of people say they come from a broken home because their parents are divorced. My home was broken while my parents were still married.
Sure.
And I was rooting for a divorce. And before I met Ozzy, I was also like, I'm never getting married if that's what marriage looks like. But when him and I sat down, so the first day we met, we sat like for 5 or 6 hours, like on a corner. We sat and we just spoke. And that's the thing I appreciated about him, is that he was willing to sit with me and just speak. So he told me that he comes from a divorced home. I told him I come from a divorced home. And I didn't call it a broken home because it was a divorced home. I called it a divorced home because my parents were divorced. Yeah. Like I say, it was broken while they were still married. And I said that I felt like I never wanted to even be in a relationship. He will tell you it was very difficult. But I knew what I wanted for myself. I knew I did not want to get married because of my parents. And then we started dating. And obviously my aunt and uncle, my father's younger brother, a week before I met Ozzy, I went to visit them for the weekend. And I looked at them, I was like, you know what, God, if you ever give me a man, I want my husband one day to treat me the way my uncle treats my aunt. Because, man, he treated her like gold till this very day. They probably married for over 20 years, and he still treats her the same. And when I met Ozzy and the way he treated me, I was like, okay, God, I'm not ready now because I was 16, but one day I do foresee myself getting married, because I don't just want to be one of those girls that loves with their boyfriends. Okay. And, you know, like I said last week, if you have the intention of getting married, if you are engaged and you're living together, and you know my wedding is a few months away, okay, but I did not want to live with this man and give all of me to him without him making a commitment to me. Because, look, even though I grew up in an Anglican church, when I started attending a Pentecostal church, I learned what marriage is, and I learned what a commitment is. So when we sat down and we said, okay, look, you come from a divorced home, I come from a divorced home. We are not doing that to our kids. You know what you went through as a child, I know what I went through as a child, and we will not put our children through that. And I think that was when we decided, you know what, we love each other. Why not just... And also, when you are dating and you live together, there's no God in that. When you get married, yes, and you live together, God is the center of every single decision that you make.
Wow, yeah.
And if you don't take it to God, then there's nothing. That's why they just get married, or rather live together, not get married. And then if you want to get out, you're out.
Yeah.
But they feel like marriage is an imprisonment. It's not. It's a beautiful thing that God has put together. So, I mean, I always say, I'm his rib. He can't live without me.
Yeah.
And I mean,
ribs.
I'm his rib. I can't live without him.
Yes.
That's just how it is.
Yes. And for you, the deciding factor?
So for me, it was all about commitment.
Okay.
I'm not gonna go long and short about it. It's only about commitment, right? Nikki gave everything. I'm just gonna put in here and there, right? The difference between men and boys is the lessons they learn, right? I can't afford, first of all, to mess up because I've got a girl and I've got 2 boys that are following in my footsteps. I could have decided, hey, you know what? Laat ek nou maar net 'n kind kry hierso, die medies is okay, you know, she's a lekker vibe, she's beautiful, but I don't really see it. But that is small boy mentality. Real men turns a woman into a wife, right? And a wife into a mother, right? The late Miles Monroe once said, a woman is an incubator. The more you give, the more you're going to get. For example, I buy groceries, she provides a meal, right? I give a seed, 3 beautiful kids, you know.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, it's very easy to get on, get in, get out.
Sure.
As let me say it, a lighty,
Yeah.
right? That is that young boy mentality. So for me, I saw, listen, I can't go a day without her, right? Yes, we are together, maar ons is nie saam nie. Right? You go, read your book, I'll get on my bike, I'll ride, I'll do whatever. But at the end of the day, op die bors moet sy nog kom slaap. You understand? So once you can differentiate the difference
Okay.
between the young man and the man,
Yeah.
then we can start talking. But further than that, you know what? It's like this light is walking around with your pants on the
knees.
ground, on the knees. There's no respect.
Yes.
That's not how I was raised.
Yes.
A 90s baby. I think anyone from 1991, 1989, all the 90 babies right down. Hulle kop is nog bietjie reg aangeskroef. From 1992 right up, look, we got a big problem, guys. I'm not gonna lie, there's a big problem. But moral of the story is commitment for me.
Lee, if I can just say something,
Yes.
it's an interesting thing on the survey you did about those people that feel they can live together. But here's the flip side to it. A lot of those people ultimately want to get married. They want to get
It's like
married. So the question
testing
is,
it out for marriage.
are you testing it out for marriage? Then why not just get married?
Yes.
However, I need to also say this, of about 5 couples that I've heard of, not some of them that I personally know, but one in particular that stands out, and it was in this year. They got married in November. They lived together for 11 years. 11 years they lived together, right? They decide to get married in November of 2021. By January 2022, they divorced.
Yeah.
So the question really comes down to this. I ask a question when everybody who comes for premarital counseling, and those who have come will know my question.
Yes.
I ask you outright, what do you want from married life that single life can't give you? You know, if you answer that question honestly, and it's I'm not asking it for the two of them, I'm asking you, what do you want from married life? Because to be single, it's okay. There's no commitment. You can do what you want to, stay wherever you can, just literally do what you want to.
Yeah.
But I think when you answer that question honestly and truthfully, I think we'll have a lot more people who will get into marriage because of how they see marriage. And for me, I say this and I say it, and we had the discussion about this, marriage is more spiritual than what it is natural.
Yes.
The foundation of marriage was birthed in the Garden of Eden.
Yes.
If Christianity is the oldest religion, then every other religion took this one thing from Christianity, and it's marriage.
Yes.
So there was something that happened in the Garden of Eden that was established upon a spiritual precept of what God. And so for me, marriage is more spiritual than what it is natural.
Yes.
The same like you can't touch love, you can't be in love, but you know that you know that you know that you
Yes.
love. Yeah.
So on that, Pastor Ning, also to continue with that, and I want to get into the questions because we've got a few questions as well. But the decision, they make a decision, and now as Neil Christian asks, how important is premarital counseling, right? And what should it cover? So you're going to get into that now. And then Clayton says that he will never forget the prayer that Pastor Neil said at your wedding, Nikki and Ozzy. It's something that has stayed with him for such a long time, because obviously, like you mentioned, the spiritual aspect of marriage, and I guess that's what he's also alluding to, the fact that, because it was done in holy matrimony. But let's get into premarital counseling, and then I'm going to go into Kiletso's question as well that she's got for you.
Okay. So one of the most important things, and I think over the years I've changed that from premarital counseling to marriage preparation.
Okay.
So what we attempt to do during that time is to stop marriage problems before they start.
Yes. Okay.
And to empower the couple to deal with whatever they are going through should it arise. I have discovered one thing, and I personally have stopped so many weddings because I could see that the two sitting in front of me, they in my presence and they cannot deal with stuff.
Sure.
They are disrespectful to each other. And there's one thing that I've learned is that whatever happens in your courtship, you take into your marriage. So what we do in premarital counseling, we want to address the issues that will arise later, because I believe that all marriages faces the same type of challenges. Maybe the degree is different to those challenges.
Yes.
So what we do in marriage counseling, we cover a lot of things, and I'm going to answer quickly. There's our premarital counseling at Crystal Church runs for 3 months. That is 12 weeks. And for 12 weeks, we've got a subject that we do. We start off with family and childhood history, where we want to know what's happening. Both couples must know what is happening in each other's families.
Yes.
Where were you when you were 9 years old? What was the condition of your household, your mother and your father? We ask questions that are relevant to that time, because I believe that most of our habits and most of our ideas and knowledge, our first line of experience and exposure is when we are children.
Yes.
The first time you learned conflict was between you and your brother and your sister. The first time you observed conflict was between your mom and your dad. And so we learn from that, and you take it into your adult life. And and then we deal with finances, we deal with intimacy in marriage, we deal with in-laws, how to handle in-laws, what are the boundaries you set for in-laws.
Okay.
We deal with finances, we deal with personal development, you as a person, as an individual. Where are you in terms of attaining and achieving certain milestones for yourself, both spiritually, your career, your outlook on life. We talk about children. We talk about when you'd like to have children, how many children you want, how do you want to raise those children.
Yeah.
So we cover in 12 weeks. And then we have one interesting thing where the couple, they obviously don't do the assessment together, they do it apart.
Yes.
And so there's one interesting thing there where we ask a range of questions. Please rate the person on the following aspects, like if I can, on the top of my head, remember one: responsibility, accountability, what's the other one? Submission. Where do you rate yourself and how do you rate your partner? And usually there, you find out and you see if the two have a fundamental idea of who they are dealing with. Because it's real questions and it's hard questions. Then there's another section where we come back and say, listen here, did anything happen? Because remember, sometimes we don't know the couples while they are courting. So the question that asks, if there's anything that happened during your time of courtship, what would you change and what would you not do? So that question opens up a can of worms. Okay, so he cheated on me. So we know, okay, I won't cheat on this lady again. So we know where we go.
Yes.
So the other one is, what would you change about this person? Is there anything that you would change about that person? That is physiologically, temperament, whatever. And that is where we pick up the reality of things and we can deal with it. And so what we do is, during the premarital counseling, we equip you and we empower you to deal with those things. I believe in this one thing, that people say that you must be compatible. To a degree, that's true. But I believe firmly that you need to be complementing to one another. And the one thing that must not happen is that Ozzy can't expect Nicky to be a Aussie. Imagine two Aussies in the same house. Twee grapjas in dieselfde huis.
I don't know, Nikki might say that the kids are beginning to be...
You see what I'm saying? So in terms of that, people think that when I get married now, I'm going to adopt his personality, she's going to adopt my personality. No. God gave you a personality as a sacred gift to you. That is who you are. And so the two personalities complement one another. And they say that the opposites attract. That's true. And they say that two of the same repel one another. I don't believe that. You must learn how to work with one another in terms of your temperament, in terms of your personality. So we cover all of those things. And during that time, you really see who you are dealing with, and sometimes people's eyes go open to the fact that these questions were never posed to me before. And it's in a document. So now the reality is, now we need to answer these questions, the premarital form, very honestly and transparently, so that we can deal with it. And I believe when you leave, for example, in finances, when we go through that, you leave that counseling office with the full knowledge and knowing what is expected of you when it comes to finance. And that covers also the premarital counseling is for 3 months. We cover everything as in-depthly as we possibly can. Some of them go quick, some of them we sit down, there's tears, sometimes there's laughter, sometimes there's repentance right there. And that is what the premarital counseling. And when you are done there, you yourself make the decision whether or not you want to get married or not.
Awesome. You know that Nicky and Ozzy are a product of your premarital counseling, and we've also got Cindy Oliphant that says that premarital counseling is important. She says that we are still applying the principles we learned from Pastor Neil today after almost 8 years of marriage. So another testimony. Well done. Thank you so much. And now we've got another question, and it's actually one of the points here. So thank you so much, Keletso, for this question. And I'm going to ask both. I'm going to pose it to Ozzy, and then I'm going to also speak to Pastor Neil from a personal perspective, right? Keletso asks, why do men struggle to be good husbands when they come from divorced or broken homes? Because initially it was a struggle for me. So thank you for your vulnerability, Keletso. We appreciate it. Especially knowing I didn't want to be like my father, but I saw some of him in me. And that's one of the questions that I want to ask. How do you navigate old behaviors, especially when you say that there's certain things, because for all of us, even if we don't come from broken homes, there's certain things that we don't want to take from our parents into our marriage, right? Even if they had a brilliant marriage, there's certain things with my parents that I'm like, this won't work in my setting, especially for a modern day setting. But then as you grow older, you start picking up some of the traits like, but this is now, it reads like my mother. So for you answering that question, how do you overcome that struggle?
Look, first of all, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? And I'm going to reiterate what I said. The difference between men and boys is the lessons they learn. Why I say so? I could have easily become, or rather follow, in my father's footsteps, right? I don't like to lean on the past, because it's a reason it's in the past. It's not coming back. In fact, we're looking the wrong way. We should be looking at forward, the prize, right? So I broke that tradition. It was, believe me when I tell you, it was one of the hardest things that for me personally as a man, it takes a real man to first of all admit when he's wrong, and pride kills a man. But I had to admit, I had to submit as well. I had to see where the root of the problem is and how I'm going to fix it. And the only way to fix it is to uproot it. All right, listen, I saw what my dad did. Okay, that is not how a woman should be treated, right? I feel it should be done differently, right? I'm not saying this is what my father did. I'm just giving an illustration.
Yes.
For example, with my boys now. My boys smacked Nevaeh the other day. So I went to him. I whacked him, right? And I told him, from that age, you do not hit a girl.
Correct.
Right? You do not. And I'm not doing this out of spite. I'm doing this out of love, right? So what my child sees me do to his mother, at that tender age, we might think, it's small, you'll forget. Children are like elephants, they don't forget anything, right? So how they see me treat Nicky is how they're going to treat their spouse or girlfriend or whatever they're going to call it in the future, right? So I was not exposed to that as a young man, right? I thought, you know what, us no get in, get on, whoops, waps, class for is over, right? But I broke that tradition. And look where am I now? Sacrifice. Do you understand? So it's not the easiest of things to do, but if you commit, if you say, I am going to do it, you can do it. It's as simple as pie. But all you've got to do is stay focused, because this you can derail very quickly, Pastor Neil. It's very, very, very easy to derail. But you've got to keep that momentum going. Like I said it earlier on, I can't afford to mess up now. Right? Let me tell you guys, first of all, temptation is heavy outside.
Yes.
Right? Temptation on both parties.
Yes.
Many think, no, it's just the woman. Hey, guys, it's a two-way street, not a one-way junction on both parties. We'll have fights or whatever, but I cannot get distracted now. I've got 6 pair of eyes. Sorry, 3 pair of eyes. Or me says, there is watching me. No, yeah, my brother's kids, and you know.
Yes.
But moral of the story, to answer that question, it was never easy for me, right? To become a good husband and a better father, right? It's humble beginnings. So look for the root of the problem, uproot that problem, and do some introspection. Let me figure me out, in a nutshell. I hope that helps.
Definitely. You mentioned something so interesting there, but you know, one of the cardinal sins and one of the main sins is pride, right? And unfortunately, the world has taken that word and they have made it something to be celebrated. But pride, the Bible says clearly that pride comes before a fall, right? And the fact that you said there, you had to almost like have a one-on-one first fight with yourself.
Correct.
Because you had to sit yourself down and say, listen, Ozzy, these are the shortfalls that I'm noticing in you. And you could have chosen either way. You could have chosen, look, it's easier to just stay because it's difficult to work on yourself. This goes for any person, right? But I think especially for a man, because you've got this alpha male, masculine thing that rises up in you and you feel like, nee, ek is die man, I must, you know, don't tell me or whatever. But the fact that you had to deal with that, I want to commend you on that. And I really think that for all of us, that is something. Because I'm sure there's certain things that you picked up, Nikki, in your parents and your mother, that you were like, this is not going to work in my marriage. And you had to sit and you had to wrestle with Nikki, right? But for you, Pastor Neil, in answering that question, how do you become a good husband?
So, the long and short of it, as Ozzy like to say, the long and short of it.
There you go.
I think once you realize and you acknowledge the things that you are not perfect in. We are not perfect, but we strive toward perfection. And so your shortcomings, it's I think the beginning of where you start to evaluate where you are as a person. Coming out of a house where there was no father, I had uncles, I had people who were around me, but they were never. You can never say they're my father, even though they want to play that role. And then one day for me, this is what happened. It was, I think, in the 10th, in Extension 4. I think we were married a few months. And on this day, in my heart, I said to God, I don't know how to be a husband. I don't know how to be a father because I never saw that in my household. And I think that once that realization happens in you, you are able to become the man that God wants you to be. Not your wife, not your children, not your sisters and brothers, is what God wants you to be. And I think the beginning of becoming a good husband is becoming a good servant of God.
Sure.
Because I believe that once you are there, God trained me how to be a father, God showed me how to be a husband, because I really never had that type of in-depth impact into my life. So it's really a choice that you make. You know the things. And I want to share this with you. A friend of mine who lives in Cape Town, they're on their way, they went to visit a friend of theirs. I think it's in more towards the east, the western, on the west coast.
Yes.
And they're driving, so the children are misbehaving in the car, and he starts going off. So his wife looks at him, and his thing was he doesn't want to be like him. You never want to be like his father. But on this journey, he started reacting in this way. And so she looked at him, and he looked at her, and for one moment there, he realized these words. He pulled his car off the side of the road. He went for a walk in the bushes there on the west coast. He went on his knees and he asked God to help him.
Sure.
You see, to be a good man is to know who your Creator is. Because God and the Holy Spirit will guide and direct you and show you and help you. Because that it's ultimate where it comes. And we strive to be better husbands and better fathers. But I think the beginning of being a good husband and father, husband and a good man is to know who you belong to, that you belong to Christ. And He is the sovereign God of our lives. And allow Him to be your director, allow Him to guide you, allow allow him to teach you to be there. Then there are good men around. Let me tell you something. There are good men around. And Chanel said something powerful the other day. She said, you know what? I can't answer for somebody, a man that wasn't present in our home.
Yes.
I cannot. I was never exposed to anything like that, because when I look around, or bad men, when I look in our family, I see there are good men in our family. She just looked closely. And I think if you look closely and see who you can identify as a role model and emulate and ask questions and ask guidance, I think then you can begin to become the man and the person that you're supposed to be.
Awesome. So we've got Fabio Khan saying, well said, Ozzy, Cheryl Hartzenberg clapping hands, and then Cheslin Constant saying, well said, Pastor Neil. So I want to end off with this because we don't have much time and, load shedding. But I want to end off with this. I want to ask you, priority-wise, if you were to really look at what is important for you in marriage from your spouse's point of view, right? And then I'm going to give it over to Pastor Neil. I'm going to ask the question like this. What do you prioritize as important in Ozzy in sustaining your marriage as it is now? Because there's a scripture that says that husbands love your wives, wives respect your husbands, right? And the Bible says husbands love your wives as Christ loves the church. So it's a strong call to love, right? But also respect. But what do you see as priority in Ozzy in order for your relationship, your marriage, to stay strong and to keep going forward? And then I'm going to bounce the question back to you in Nicky.
Okay. So I would say that, look, Ozzy and I, we still have, even though we have our 3 children, there's times where I hear couples say that after the kids, you don't spend time together anymore. He loves, his what do you call it?
Love
his
language.
love language is affirmation. Like he wants, like when I look at him, and it's like, he's so handsome. Look at your cheeks, and
the man is blushing.
Yo, he's like,
Hey, laat ek dit warm kry.
like, put on the aircon. Nicky, please, Ozzy needs to go to work after this. You've got work after this.
So it's like we always make time for each other.
Okay.
We have a routine. When we get home from work, I will cook, Ozzy will spend time with the kids. And then while we eating, I spend time with the kids. We put them to bed. By 8 o'clock, they're in bed. We have our time together. So we have to spend time together at night.
Yes.
And then once a month, we've made it, sometimes it's twice a month, we've made it tradition after our kids' game that we will go on dates. And he spoiled me. This man spoiled me like nobody's business.
That's
And that's the one.
we know. I mean, he bought you a car.
Yeah,
last week you got a new car.
So for me, it's, I respect him, and also I love him equally.
Yes.
There was one day we just got married, and my mom has this thing where she used to shout at my stepfather, and to me that was like, I don't want that.
Yes.
And I did it one day, and I shouted at him, and he stopped me. He said, "Whoa, you are not your mother, and I'm not Uncle Neil. You will not shout at me." And then I sat back, and I'm like, do not tell me I just did that, because then for me that was like the respect went way out. It left the building.
Sure.
And I did not want to do that. And I didn't do it after that, because I knew how it made him feel. And till this day, I want him to know that I not only respect you and submit you as the man of the house, but as my husband, as like you said, as the alpha of our house. So, like he said, the way he treats me is the way his kids, our kids are one day going to treat their spouses. And people always say that in our family, there's a lot of people that say, oh no, but your father was never there, blah, blah, blah. I say, I am happy for that.
Yeah.
And I don't mean it in a bad way. Because if his parents were still together, in that, the way they treated each other, he would have thought, okay, this is the right way. And he would have treated me exactly how his dad treats his mom. And he would have expected me to treat him the way his mother treated his father. And that for me did not work. So there's a reason why, there's a reason why things happen the way they do.
Yes.
And there's a reason why God put this man in my life.
Yes.
Because he knew that I needed, he knew what I needed. We're not where we want to be, and we're not where we used to be.
Yes.
We're exactly where God wants us to be. And we're doing exactly what he wants us to do. So, I love you,
Hey,
baby.
motherfuck, baby.
Yo, we're gonna have to really let Ozzy just quickly speak because Nicky is making us all out here in the
Who
studio.
I say, man?
For you, Oz.
Look, I'm a practical guy.
Yes.
I love working with these hands, right? So, for me, Nicky is the salt in the house,
Okay.
right? Now and then is a good thing, and then now and then is
Too salty.
Dis so terug.
so terug. En
Ja.
weet ons, okay, die liefde is daar so, right? But she's everything, right? It took us, and I said it the other day when God allowed me to get this vehicle for her, I said it took us 15 years to get a vehicle of our own.
Sure.
Right? Not a vehicle that, Pastor Neil, as my go 30,000, I want that. For some reason, it didn't gel. It took us 15 years to get, well, not 15, what was it? 12 years to get our own house
Yeah.
on our name.
Yeah.
Right? So something that I did is no more I or me, it's now we.
We.
You understand? And because I've got the opportunity to share that we moments, that us moments with Nicky, it is truly phenomenal. So all that I can really say, Nicky is, whether you go look for aromat, whether you go look for Worcester sauce or whatever, there is
Chutney.
no salt like a ware tannie se hand.
Yeah.
You can actually tell the difference.
Yeah.
These modern day women will take a spoon. Oudtydse mense, old-fashioned,
Yes.
old-fashioned people,
Yes.
sal die hand vat, gooi hom daar so, 1, 2, ag hy werk,
Yes.
sorted. All that I can tell you, a very good guy on TikTok, one is one, even in Hong Kong, or whatever the case may be, it's easy.
Yes.
It's easy.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Pastor
Yeah.
Neil. For you, what do you think couples should prioritize in looking for a part, especially those who are not married and those who are married, who's working on their marriage now?
Just, we never even touched the covenant. I think we must do this another.
We need to do it
another
again.
one. So,
That's why I said we need to get everybody back in here.
listen here, so you said something, and one day I was busy waiting for a couple, and they were late. And it's not Nicky and Ozzy, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not.
I was waiting for a couple, and I was reading Ephesians chapter 5. And we all start at verse 22. Wives, submit to your husbands.
Yes.
Go on.
Yeah.
Then he goes on and says, husband, love your wives. Then God led me to verse 21. And I read it out of the Message Bible. And the Message Bible says, out of reverence for Christ, now, husbands, love your wives.
Sure.
Wives, submit unto your husbands. And then go back every time. Go back to verse 21. Out of reverence for Christ. This is what needs to. Husbands, love your wives as you love themselves. Go back out of reverence for Christ. And I think priority must come where we realize that God has to be the center of your relationship.
Yes.
I often say, when things go wrong, who better than husband and wives to go on their knees together and trust and pray and ask God for the breakthrough? Because where 2 or 3 agree as touching anything. And who more powerful than a covenant? Because remember, the Bible says, and the two shall become one. Do you know where that places marriage? Right next to the Trinity.
Sure.
Right next to the Father is 3 in 1, and you are 2 in 1. And the
Sure.
two of you together make a covenant with God. And a covenant cannot be broken up on the face of the earth. God is the only one that can break a covenant. And do you think he's going to break the marriage covenant? He will never. So I think out of that, when you read Ephesians, go back every
That's
time
like
to verse
asking,
21.
do you think God will break his Trinity?
He'll never
He'll
do
never
that.
do
dude.
that.
He'll
It's
never
the
do
same
that. Yeah.
with marriage.
Yeah. And so as much as there's challenges, there's things. But every time go back out of reverence for Christ, do this. Out of reverence for Christ, treat yourself, treat your wife as you would treat your own body, out of reverence for Christ. Therefore a man will leave his mother and father and be joined out of reverence for Christ. And I think the fundamental thing is here to realize that marriage is more spiritual
Yes.
than anything else. And so marriage and priority would be, for me, the biggest thing in that is that, and the problem is that we don't see each other as husband and wife. We don't see the spiritual aspect of each other. We don't understand that this is God's child as well, and this is I'm God's child as well, and so we don't see that. And priority would be respect. When you respect each other, because of verse 21, out of reverence for Christ, that statement itself brings a different dimension to what you do for as husband and wife to one another, because now you are doing it as unto the Lord, a higher being, our ultimate authority. And I think for me that's priority. Love, respect, love, treat each other good, make life easy for one another, because God wanted marriage to be fun and have fun. It's important. Just be yourself, be Ozzy, be Nicky, be Neil, be Cheryl. And that's it for me. So prioritizing is to get to a place where you know that our marriage is based upon spiritual values, and that's where it's going to be. That God first and everything else after that. So for me, priority, we can go on forever.
We definitely can. We definitely can. I want to end off with this quote that I found on Instagram a very long time ago that I saved. And it's by it's on Worship Blog, at Worship Blog. And it says, to be loved but not known is comforting, but superficial. To be known and not loved is our greatest fear. But to be fully known and truly loved, well, it's a lot like being loved by God. It is what we need more than anything. It liberates us from pretense. Social media is full of pretense.
Goodness.
But true love liberates us from pretense, humbles us out of our self-righteousness, and fortifies us for any difficulty life can throw at us. And I think that summarizes what the show told us about. So thank you so much. We've got Victoria Twala saying, greetings and blessings to you all. She's just arrived. She says this is a must watch indeed. Go and watch from the beginning, Jabs. And then we've got Theolan Francis saying, such an amazing show. Thank you so much, Yoli. To everybody who watched, to my amazing guests, like I said, this topic can go on forever. It's one of my favorite topics, actually. So I am going to bring you guys back. Next week, I want to be speaking about blended families. So, people that come from, who have kids before marriage, and then that whole dynamics. I want to bring that in as well. So we're going to be speaking about blended families next week. The whole month of July is dedicated to love and relationships. So maybe the last week of July, then we can bring you guys back again, just to have something on that. If not, then we can take it into the next couple of months. It doesn't really matter. But thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for sharing your insights and for making yourself vulnerable to our viewers. And then for you who have watched and who also joined us in the comments section in the live chat, we really appreciate it. Tomorrow we've got Talk with Joan. Friday we've got Gab Fest, so do look out for that. Thank you so much for everybody who watched us. Until next time, bye.
Bye.